Powered by the Montana Television Network. This is the 5:30 News on Q2, Montana's news leader.
Good evening and thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Jay Cohn.
And I'm Jeanelle Slade. It's back to class for Billings area schools.
Whether they're filled with butterflies or dread, come tomorrow morning, students will fill the streets and sidewalks as they kick off another school year for Billings Public Schools.
Now, the start of school also means it's back to school zones for a special group of Billings police officers.
As Q2's Victoria Hill reports now, they want you to keep something in mind.
We've had a break for a couple months, and people kind of get lax on watching the crosswalks, watching for pedestrians.
Billings police officer Brandon Ide has seen it firsthand. He's one of 4 that make up the Selective Traffic Enforcement Program, or STEP. While images of backpacks and books come to mind at the start of a new school year, it also means a busier time for STEP officers.
We focus on school zones as much as we can every day. So we might have the whole team together work in one area 2-3 times a day, morning, lunchtime, and after school. We are really aggressive with the school zones, and if you're stopped by a traffic officer, you can pretty much count on you're getting a $300 ticket.
That's a $300 ticket for speeding or using a cell phone in a school zone the first time. The second offense, $500. It costs a lot, but could ultimately cost much more.
A collision with a child is a lot more traumatic than hitting an adult. We always have a few each year where a kid is either nearly struck or actually is hit. Obviously that is pretty serious for a kid because of their height. They take a lot of that impact right into their torso. Obviously that's where all your vitals are. And then obviously you have the concerns that they're going to go underneath the vehicle also because of their height.
And even though officers and crossing guards will be around to keep children safe, parents also need to make sure kids have a safe route to school and know how to keep themselves safe. In Billings, Victoria Hill, MTN News.
Now keep in mind the speed limits vary from school to school, so stay alert.
Officer Ide also warns drivers if you see school zone lights flashing but no kids, you must still slow down and follow the speed limits.
A new addition to Rocky Mountain College that's been 10 years in the making.
Today the doors officially opened for the Dr. Charles Morledge Science Building, which will be fully open to students this year. Crews broke ground for the nearly $10 million project back in the spring of 2016.
Rocky President Bob Wilmuth says it's been a culmination of hard work and the help of more than 85 donors.
Today we celebrate what is the latest chapter in our evolution as we launch a new era for education delivery here at Rocky Mountain Colleges in the hard sciences. Over 90% of our students will come through this building. And this adds a new dimension. It's not just about exploration in the sciences. This is about interprofessional academics, a true collaborative and collective charge for both our students and our faculty.
And Wilmuth says this is just one step as the college evolves.
And just down the street, MSU Billings is working toward its new science building as well.
A bit of a headache for students and educators trying to get to the Career Center tomorrow. The city of Billings says due to unforeseen circumstances, construction is still underway on Central Avenue near the Career Center as school starts Thursday. Now, the construction has an area of Central Avenue between Shiloh Road and South 38th Street West closed, which is likely to cause delays. You will not be able to access Central using Shiloh Road, but Central will be open east of 38th. So the city suggests drivers coming from the west go down to Monad, then back up South 38th Street West to access the Career Center. And make sure to give yourself a little extra time if you're heading that way.
If you needed a reminder that Montana weather can feature a wide range of conditions, well, this month of August is Exhibit A.
Since the turn of the century, there have never been back-to-back 100-degree days or back-to-back below 60-degree days in the month of August. Would you believe we've experienced both in the last 10 days? For those of you doing the math at home, that's a 46-degree swing between 103 degrees on August 12th and 57 degrees on August 21st.
Tuesday's afternoon's high of 57 degrees. Well, that marked the lowest afternoon high temperature for August 21st, the lowest on record in Billings.
A bit of a haze in the skies again today. Here's a look at the smoke lingering across the Billings cityscape this afternoon.
But the smoke-filled skies did not stop people from walking or biking through town, showing us that this smoke isn't providing much of a burden, at least here in Billings.
And on that note, Chief Forecaster Bob McGuire with his eye on the sky. Bob, the smoke less visible yesterday, but it was also a lot colder. What happened?
A big difference. We had some fog this morning. Did you guys see that fog?
Yeah, I did.
Let me show it to you. Take a look at this. This is the way it looked from our iCam this morning looking at downtown Billings. Looks like smoke, right? No, that is fog this morning, folks. So here's what's happening. You can see the wildfire still out in Glacier National Park at the north end of Lake McDonald. You can still see some of the smoke plumes. So, yeah, the fires are still going, but here's what has happened. Well, you notice you see all the fires up in the northwest corner of the state, and now the winds are taking that smoke away from eastern Montana and wrapping around that low pressure cell over western Idaho. And then as it wraps around that low, it slings it right back up into the south central part of the state. So we're looking at more smoke being pumped in from that low pressure cell. And so here's the way it looks. Out towards the west, you can see the left of your screen. That's where the smoke is coming from, and it continues to make its way into our area. What does it mean for the weekend? We'll have more on that coming your way in a few more minutes.
All right. Thanks, Bob.
Less than 24 hours before Montana's general election ballot must be finalized. Another challenge to Initiative 185.
The citizens group says the initiative, which raises tobacco taxes and extends Medicaid expansion in Montana, is unconstitutional and should be removed from the ballot. The Guardian group says I-185 is unconstitutional because if passed, it would appropriate state money to support Medicaid expansion. The state constitution does not allow voter initiatives to appropriate money directly.
But we checked with the Montana Secretary of State's office, and they tell MTN the measure will not be removed. A spokesman for the Guardian group, meanwhile, says it may consider taking its challenge to court. The backers of 185 question who's behind the Guardian group. They point out that Montana's Attorney General has declared I-185 to be legally sufficient.
President Donald Trump plans to spend at least 40 days flying across the country campaigning for Republicans before the November elections. And that includes a possible second stop here in Montana. A White House political advisor told reporters Trump is scheduled to travel to 6 different states: Montana, the Dakotas, Missouri, Nevada, Kentucky, and Tennessee. He cautioned those states could change. The president was in Great Falls in July campaigning for Republican Senate candidate Matt Rosendale.
The votes are tallied and the lineup now set for Wyoming's general election in November. State Treasurer Mark Gordon emerged from a crowded GOP primary for governor to claim his party's nomination Tuesday. Gordon capturing 33% of the vote, outdistancing runner-up Foster Friese, who got 25%. Gordon will face off here, as you see, against Democrat Mary Throne in November. Throne won 72% of the vote in yesterday's three-way Democratic race for governor. In the race for U.S. Senate, incumbent Republican John Barrasso captured 65% of the vote, and he'll face off against Democrat Gary Trauner in November as he seeks a third term. In the U.S. House race, first-term Congresswoman Liz Cheney ran away with 68% of the vote on Tuesday, easily to outdistance her two challengers. Cheney will meet Democrat Greg Hunter in the general election. Hunter captured 61% of the vote as he defeated Travis Helm for the Democratic nomination. And voter turnout in yesterday's Wyoming primary, 44% of the registered voters cast ballots. That's an increase of nearly 10% from the last midterm election in 2014.
Coming up on tonight's Q2 530 News, a major historical landmark in Glacier National Park will rise from the ashes. An update on the Sperry Chalet as it begins to take shape.
And coming up in sports, Scott has answers on Rocky's situation at both quarterback and kicker ahead of tomorrow night's season opener.
You're watching MTN News with Jay Cohn and Jeanelle Slade. Storm Tracker weather with Bob McGuire. And sports with Scott Green. This is the 530 News on Q2, Montana's news leader.